What if the summer night of 1947 New Mexico suddenly filled with whispers of impossible UFO object, and the quiet comfort of your small town was replaced by the chill of military silence? We calmly explore the unsettling reality of being a Roswell civilian witness. Imagine yourself, if you will, not in the comfort of your present moment, but transported back, far back, to July 1947. The setting is the small, dusty town of Roswell, New Mexico, a place of quiet routines and clear desert skies. And you are, for the purpose of our quiet contemplation, a Roswell shopkeeper, your days typically filled with the steady rhythm of customers and commerce. However, the air has recently thickened with an unusual buzz. Rumors of a crashed saucer are now quietly circulating through the town. Your existence is defined by daily tasks, the subtle currents of local gossip, and a growing, quiet unease. The first sensation that might envelop you is the dry, pervasive summer heat. Even within the shaded confines of your shop, the warmth would be constant, a familiar companion. The air might carry the faint, earthy scent of dry desert dust, mingled with the aroma of freshly brewed coffee from the nearby diner, and the faint, sweet scent of newly picked produce. The sounds would typically be the gentle hum of ceiling fans, the soft creak of a wooden floor beneath a customer's weight, and the quiet ring of your cash register. However, in these specific days of July, your ears catch hushed gossip. Imagine the quiet murmur of voices at the counter, customers leaning in slightly, speaking in low tones about strange sightings, peculiar debris, and military activity. Words like flying disc, UFO, and not from around here would drift subtly through the air, woven into everyday conversations. The sound of these whispered secrets, punctuated by thoughtful pauses, would create a constant, low-level hum of intrigue throughout the town. Meals, though simple, would often be consumed amidst this unfolding mystery. Your sustenance might consist of warm, hearty diner stew, served in a chipped ceramic bowl at a local eatery. The aroma of simmering vegetables and meat would fill the air, a comforting scent. But even as you ate, your eyes would subtly scan the faces around you, trying to discern who knew more, who believed the rumors, and who seemed particularly quiet. The clinking of cutlery, the soft scrape of chairs, and the distant, muffled sound of traffic would form the backdrop to these uneasy meals. As evening descends, the glow of neon signs would cast a soft, ethereal light on the dusty streets, illuminating the quiet sidewalks. The familiar hum of the signs would be a comforting, steady sound, yet it would seem to frame an unsettling quietness that had settled over the town. People would move with a subtle change in their demeanor, a quiet sense of apprehension. When night finally arrives, you return to your small home, a familiar sanctuary, but even here, the quiet tension persists. You sleep, but your rest might be disturbed, your thoughts returning to the unsettling events. The reason for this lingering unease: you yourself had seen odd lights in the sky just days before. That memory, vivid and perplexing, combines with the pervasive rumors and the subtle shifts in the town's atmosphere. And there is the chilling sensation of fearing military questions. The presence of the army, usually a distant and abstract concept, has become much more tangible. You might have seen military vehicles, perhaps even uniformed personnel, moving through the town with a quiet purposefulness. The thought that your own seemingly innocent sighting could draw unwanted attention, could lead to a knock on your door, creates a subtle internal tremor. The very silence of the night might feel charged with unspoken possibilities. To exist in such a state, to navigate daily life under the subtle current of extraordinary rumors and the quiet tension of an unseen military presence, required a constant, low-level vigilance. It demanded a careful calibration of what to say and to whom. The rhythm of your days would be a slow, persistent negotiation of curiosity, unease, and the profound realization that your quiet, ordinary world had suddenly been touched by something truly inexplicable. from the general unease and circulating rumors within the town of Roswell. Let us now gently narrow our focus to a more specific and deeply personal account, that of D. Proctor. He was just a young boy in July 1947, a neighbor to the rancher Mac Brazel, and his direct encounter with the mysterious debris would forever mark his quiet life. This tale of a child's discovery and the subsequent subtle suppression of his voice is engaging yet delivered with a soothing tone, allowing you to contemplate the profound impact of unexpected events on an individual. Imagine D. Proctor as a boy, perhaps tending to chores or simply exploring the vast, quiet expanse of the desert near his home, which bordered Mac Brazel's ranch. The sun would beat down warmly on the dry landscape, and the air would carry the familiar sense of dust and hardy desert plants. The sounds would be typical for a summer day in rural New Mexico: the distant buzz of insects, the occasional call of a bird, and the gentle whisper of the wind across the open land. One particular day, as Dee moved across the range, his young eyes encountered something profoundly unusual: a vast debris field. Imagine the sight, fragments scattered across a wide area, unlike anything he or anyone else had ever seen. There were pieces of what appeared to be lightweight, yet incredibly strong, metal-like material, some with strange, purplish symbols. Other fragments felt like a type of foil, remarkably thin and light, yet resistant to crumpling. The visual impression would have been striking in its sheer alienness, a stark contrast to the familiar rocks and brush of the desert. Dee, like any curious child, might have picked up some of these peculiar pieces, feeling their unusual textures, examining the inexplicable markings. The sound of these fragments, if they were lightly tapped or moved, might have been a subtle, dry rustle or a faint, almost musical chime, unlike any ordinary earthly material. He might have shared his discovery, perhaps with his family, his voice filled with the innocent wonder of a child encountering something truly extraordinary. News of the strange debris, first discovered by Mac Brazel, and then also seen by Dee, quickly reached the authorities. And this is where the military's response enters Dee's story. Instead of distant murmurs, the quiet hum of everyday life in the desert would be gradually replaced by the more purposeful sounds of military vehicles. Imagine the distant rumble of a jeep, the soft crunch of boots on gravel, and the measured, authoritative voices of uniformed personnel arriving at the scene. Dee, being a direct witness, would have been questioned. Imagine the quiet intensity of such an interaction for a young boy. Men in crisp uniforms, their voices calm but firm, asking about what he saw, what he touched, what he knew. There would be no overt threats, but a clear, unspoken implication that certain information was sensitive, that certain things were best left unsaid. This interaction would involve the subtle pressure of authority, gently yet firmly guiding his memory and his future words. Following these quiet encounters with military personnel, D. Proctor's later life was marked by a distinct silence. While he did speak about his experience in later years, the initial period was characterized by a quiet caution. The natural inclination to excitedly share a wondrous discovery would have been gently, yet effectively, curtailed. The sounds of his early life might have shifted from the open wonder of discovery to the quiet caution of unspoken knowledge, a profound shift for a young mind. This tale of D. Proctor, a quiet observer whose childhood was briefly touched by something truly inexplicable, serves as a poignant reminder of how grand, unsettling events can subtly shape individual lives. The gentle rustle of unusual debris, the distant rumble of military presence, and the eventual quiet of a child's suppressed account. These are the calming echoes of a perplexing moment in history, inviting deep and tranquil contemplation. From the individual experience of young D. Proctor, let us now gently broaden our contemplation to encompass the intriguing enigma of civilian testimonies surrounding the Roswell incident. Beyond the initial accounts, many other local individuals found themselves unexpectedly caught in the periphery of this unfolding mystery. Their recollections, sometimes consistent, sometimes subtly varied, contribute to a complex tapestry of memory and historical inquiry, sparking quiet curiosity about the nature of hidden voices and shifting truths. Imagine the quiet lives of individuals like William Brazel Jr. and Bessie Brazel Schreiber. These were the children of rancher W. Brazel, the first to find the strange debris on his property. Their daily routines, like many in rural New Mexico, would have been filled with the ordinary sounds of ranch life, the lowing of cattle, the rustle of dry grass underfoot, the creak of wooden fences. Yet, in July 1947, their lives were quietly, irrevocably touched by something extraordinary. As children, they would have also seen and handled the peculiar fragments scattered across their father's sheep pasture. Imagine their youngs exploring the material, the incredibly lightweight yet strong pieces, the metallic yet unmetal-like textures, and the inexplicable symbols that adorned some of the fragments. The visual impact of these items would have been profound, etching themselves into their young minds. The sound of these unusual pieces, if gently flexed or moved, might have produced a subtle, dry crinkle unlike any common material. Decades later, as the Roswell incident re-emerged into public consciousness, individuals like William Jr. and Bessie, by then adults, began to share their recollections through interviews. Imagine listening to their voices, perhaps strained by age, as they recounted memories from so long ago. The sounds of an interview setting, a quiet room, the soft whir of a recording device, the patient questions of an interviewer would frame these invaluable, yet sometimes perplexing accounts. This leads to the central question surrounding these civilian accounts. Were they silenced or mistaken? Early on, many civilian witnesses, including the Brazel family, were asked by military personnel to adhere to the official explanation of a weather balloon. The sounds of these requests would have been calm, authoritative, leaving little room for dissent. For many years, a quiet caution, if not outright silence, often prevailed. This created a profound ambiguity. Were their memories genuinely altered by the official narrative, or were their public statements carefully managed to avoid further scrutiny? As time passed, and the pressure of the initial military presence receded, some inconsistencies in their recollections emerged. While broadly agreeing on the unusual nature of the debris, specific details might vary between individuals, or even within the same individual's testimony over time. Imagine the subtle shifts in emphasis, the slight discrepancies in descriptions of material or symbols. These inconsistencies, though frustrating for those seeking a singular, simple truth, are a natural aspect of human memory, especially when recalling events from decades past, and particularly when those memories involve something truly out of the ordinary. The enigma of these civilian testimonies sparks a quiet curiosity about hidden voices and the challenge of reconstructing historical truth from fragments of memory. It highlights the profound difficulty of separating lived experience from the influence of authority, the passage of time, and the very human process of remembering. These accounts, preserved in quiet interviews and faded transcripts, remain a vital yet elusive part of the Roswell puzzle. The subtle sounds of aged recordings, the quiet hesitations in a recounted memory, and the enduring questions that linger around these civilian narratives, these are the calming echoes of a perplexing moment in history, inviting deep and tranquil contemplation as we acknowledge the rich, complex tapestry of human recollection. From the intriguing yet often ambiguous realm of civilian testimonies and whispered rumors, let us now gently step into a world defined by order, discipline, and profound secrecy. The Roswell Army Airfield Barracks in July 1947. This segment offers a striking contrast to the civilian experience, providing a captivating glimpse into the structured daily life of soldiers and the tightly controlled operations surrounding the mysterious debris, highlighting the pervasive nature of military control. Imagine entering a typical barrack building at the Arte ADF, the air inside carrying the clean, crisp scent of starch, disinfectant, and perhaps a faint, lingering aroma of military-grade coffee. The sounds would be precise and methodical, the quiet creak of a wooden door, the soft, rhythmic footsteps of soldiers moving purposefully, and the low, hushed tones of commands or conversations spoken with a certain disciplined brevity. Within the barrack rooms, rows of neatly made cots would stretch, their blankets precisely folded, their pillows plumped. The simple, functional design of the space would speak of efficiency and readiness. A personal footlocker might sit at the end of each bed, containing the few personal effects allowed to a soldier. The metallic scent of steel and the clean smell of freshly laundered linen would be pervasive. The soldiers' routines were governed by a strict, unwavering schedule. Mornings would begin before dawn, marked by the quiet stirring of many men, the rustle of uniforms, and the subtle, rhythmic sounds of preparation. Days would be filled with drills, maintenance, and training, each activity performed with disciplined precision. Evenings might offer a brief respite, with men gathered around a communal radio, its soft, crackling sound filling the room with news, music, or entertainment. The stories emanating from the radio would be carefully curated, a stark difference from the unverified rumors circulating in town. The 509th Bomb Group, stationed at RA-FES, was no ordinary unit. It was an elite group, the world's first atomic bomb squadron, and secrecy was a fundamental aspect of its very existence. This ingrained culture of discretion profoundly influenced their response to the debris discovery. Imagine the quiet intensity of their conversations, the unspoken understanding that certain information was strictly classified. The very atmosphere within the barracks would feel charged with this need for confidentiality, a silent agreement to compartmentalize knowledge. The secrecy of debris recovery was paramount. Soldiers involved in the actual collection and transport of the mysterious fragments would have operated under strict orders. Imagine the careful, methodical way they handled the unusual materials, the precise instructions given, and the clear understanding that no detail was to be shared. The sounds of this operation would be hushed and controlled. The soft rustle of tarpaulins, the quiet crunch of tires on a dirt road, and the low, authoritative voices of officers ensuring compliance. No loud commands, no visible panic, just an almost surgical precision in their actions. This disciplined world stood in stark contrast to the civilians' rumors. While the townspeople quietly whispered their theories and grappled with ambiguous information, the military operated within a carefully constructed veil of quiet, controlling the narrative with firm, unspoken authority. The soldiers themselves, even if they had seen or heard unusual things, were bound by duty and the implicit understanding of severe consequences for disclosure. Their silence was not one of confusion, but of disciplined obedience. This segment allows us to reflect on the immense power of organized authority and the pervasive nature of information control. It stands in striking, yet serene, contrast to the individual anxieties and fragmented knowledge of the civilians. One world was defined by unverified whispers, the other by the absolute precision of command and the chilling absence of open discussion, highlighting the vast differences in perspective and the profound implications of military discipline during a time of great uncertainty. From the disciplined world of the Roswell Army Airfield Barracks and the specific military control exercised over the debris, let us now gently expand our view to encompass the broader historical currents that quietly shaped the era. The emerging Cold War and the rapid rise of the UFO phenomenon. The Roswell incident did not occur in a vacuum. It resonated within a national atmosphere already charged with suspicion, rapid technological change, and a growing, palpable unease. This segment invites you to contemplate the silent forces of geopolitics and cultural anxiety that profoundly influenced how unexplained aerial phenomena were perceived and managed. Imagine the global atmosphere in the years immediately following the immense conflict of World War II. While a fragile peace had settled, a new chilling tension was quietly building, the ideological standoff that would become known as the Cold War. The air, though seemingly calm, carried a subtle undercurrent of global apprehension. The sounds of this era were often muted but significant. The distant, powerful roar of an experimental jet engine, the low, persistent hum of new radar installations, and the solemn tones of radio broadcasts discussing international relations. This period saw a profound shift in military technology and a growing awareness of aerial threats. The skies, once primarily traversed by propeller planes, were now witnessing the dawn of the jet age and the quiet development of advanced weaponry. Nations were secretly pushing the boundaries of flight and surveillance. Imagine the quiet discussions in secure rooms, contemplating unseen dangers and potential adversaries, leading to a natural emphasis on vigilance and secrecy regarding anything unusual in the airspace. Simultaneously, the year 1947 marked the quiet inception of what would become the widespread fascination with flying saucers. Just weeks before the Roswell incident, pilot Kenneth Arnold reported seeing 9 shining objects flying in formation near Mount Rainier, famously describing their movement as like saucers skipping over water. This single observation, widely reported, sparked a nationwide wave of similar sightings. Imagine the quiet buzz of conversation, the excited turning of newspaper pages, and the subtle shift in public consciousness as people began to look to the skies with new eyes. The sounds of this emerging craze were the animated discussions in diners, the soft rustle of newspaper pages, and the pervasive sense of wonder mixed with mild apprehension. Into this very specific cultural and geopolitical landscape, the Roswell incident quietly landed. The military's swift and decisive response, from the initial boast of a flying disc capture to the rapid retraction and official explanation of a weather balloon, must be understood within this context of burgeoning secrecy. The government, acutely aware of Cold War espionage and the need to control sensitive information, would naturally adopt a policy of tight control over any unusual event, especially one involving the nation's air defenses. The expanding veil of secrecy was not necessarily about a single, hidden truth, but about a broader strategy of national security. Every unexplained occurrence, every technological development, every perceived threat contributed to an environment where discretion became paramount. The sound of a quiet, authoritative voice issuing an order for silence, the precise movements of classified operations, and the deliberate management of public information were all part of this new Cold War reality. This atmosphere of control and suspicion, combined with the public's newfound fascination with flying saucers, created fertile ground for enduring mysteries like Roswell. The official explanations, delivered with calm authority, often left lingering questions, contributing to a persistent sense of unease. The absence of complete transparency, while perhaps deemed necessary for national security, inadvertently fueled decades of speculation and quiet curiosity. This segment allows us to reflect on the complex interplay between historical events, societal anxieties, and the inevitable rise of enduring mysteries. The distant hum of emerging technology, the quiet tension of Cold War politics, and the enduring questions that linger over the skies of 1947. These are the calming echoes of a perplexing moment in history, inviting deep and tranquil contemplation as we consider the silent forces that shape our understanding of the unknown. From the broad historical context of the Cold War and the emerging phenomenon of unexplained aerial sightings, let us now gently conclude our journey by contemplating the enduring echoes of the Roswell incident itself. What began as a localized event in the quiet New Mexico desert has, over decades, transformed into a pervasive cultural touchstone and a powerful symbol of government secrecy, alien speculation, and the persistent human drive to understand the unknown. This segment invites you to ponder the silent longevity of a mystery that continues to resonate. Imagine the decades that followed 1947, a quiet period where the Roswell incident remained largely forgotten by the wider public. For many years, the official explanation of a weather balloon, though met with initial skepticism by some, largely held sway. The sounds of daily life continued in Roswell, largely unburdened by the memory of strange debris. However, in the late 1970s and 1980s, the story began its remarkable reemergence. Researchers, driven by a quiet determination, began interviewing original witnesses, many of whom were now elderly and more willing to speak openly about what they had seen and what they had been told. Imagine the subtle click of a tape recorder, the gentle rustle of old notes, and the soft, sometimes hesitant, voices of those recounting events from so long ago. These renewed investigations gradually brought the Roswell incident back into public consciousness, transforming it from a forgotten blip to a subject of intense, quiet debate. As the story gained traction, the military offered further, more detailed official explanations. In 1994, the U.S. Air Force released a report stating that the recovered debris was from a Project Mogul balloon, a secret government program designed to detect Soviet nuclear tests. Later, in 1997, another report linked the alleged alien bodies to crash test dummies used in later parachute experiments. Imagine the calm, authoritative tone of these official pronouncements, designed to bring a quiet closure to the persistent questions. The sounds of these explanations would be the measured voices of officials, the quiet clicking of cameras, and the firm turning of pages in prepared reports. Yet for many, these explanations, while presented with logic and detail, did not fully extinguish the lingering questions. They were met by powerful counter-narratives of alien visitation. Advocates for this theory pointed to the unusual descriptions of the debris, the initial military press release, and the persistent testimonies of witnesses who maintained they had seen something truly otherworldly. Imagine the passionate yet often hushed discussions in living rooms and at conferences, the quiet determination to find an alternative truth. The long-term impact on popular culture has been profound. Roswell became more than just a place. It became a shorthand for UFOs, government conspiracy, and the very concept of alien life. Its name evokes a sense of enduring mystery, a quiet fascination with what lies beyond our current understanding. The sounds of this cultural impact are diverse: the subtle whir of a film projector, the soft glow of a television screen, and the quiet murmuring of countless conversations that begin with, "What if?" The ongoing quiet debate continues, not with loud arguments, but with persistent research, new interpretations of old documents, and the careful weighing of conflicting accounts. The mystery of Roswell endures not because of dramatic events, but because of the subtle ambiguities, the quiet inconsistencies, and the profound human desire to comprehend the extraordinary. This segment allows us to reflect on how a single perplexing event can cast a long shadow across decades, becoming a symbol of persistent questioning and the quiet tension between official narratives and individual experience. The distant, continuous static of an unresolved mystery, the soft rustle of old documents being re-examined, and the enduring questions that linger over the New Mexico desert. These are the calming echoes of a perplexing moment in history, inviting deep and tranquil contemplation as we consider the silent legacy of a true enigma. What if the air you breathed became a silent killer, and every shadow in your vibrant city hid a fresh corpse? We calmly explore the horrifying reality of being a plague survivor in 6th century Byzantine Constantinople. Imagine yourself, if you will, not in the comfort of your present moment, but transported back, far back, to the 6th century. The setting is the vast ancient city of Constantinople, once a beacon of civilization, now shrouded in a pervasive, quiet dread. And you are, for the purpose of our quiet contemplation, a survivor of the plague of Justinian, navigating a world irrevocably altered by an unseen, relentless enemy. Your existence is defined by constant vigilance, the acute awareness of pervasive suffering, and the profound daily struggle for quiet survival. The first sensation that might envelop you is the heavy, often still air. Your lungs burn from smoky air, a pervasive reminder of constant fires. These might be the fires used to incinerate infected clothing, or the grim, relentless burning of makeshift pyres, attempting to dispose of the ever-increasing numbers of the dead. The acrid scent of wood smoke, mingled with something more unsettling, the subtle, sweet yet cloying odor of decay, would cling to the very fabric of the city. Each breath would be a conscious act, a quiet negotiation with the omnipresent threat in the air. As you move through the once bustling streets, the quiet horror would become intensely visual. You would be constantly avoiding infected corpses, lying still and silent where they had fallen. Imagine stepping carefully around bundles of cloth, knowing what lay beneath them, or seeing the pale, still faces of the recently departed, their presence a stark, motionless tableau of widespread suffering. The visual impact would be profound, a constant, silent reminder of the plague's invisible reach. Meals, when they come, are dictated by scarcity and fear. Your sustenance might consist of simple, dry, stale bread, perhaps chewed slowly, carefully, to prolong its meager nourishment. The taste would be bland, providing just enough to quiet the gnawing emptiness within. There would be little of the vibrant, varied food of normal times, only the quiet understanding that every crumb was precious, obtained with difficulty. As night falls, or when safety demands, you would seek refuge. Your rest is found in a cramped tenement, a small, shared space where the air is stale and heavy with the breath of others. There's little comfort, and the act of sleep itself is often disturbed. The reason for this pervasive unease, you are fearing death. Every cough from a neighbor, every hushed conversation about a new fever, every moment of quiet discomfort in your own body sends a quiet jolt of dread through your being. Your dreams, if they come, might be disturbed by a subtle, pervasive sense of fragility. But beneath the routines of survival and the constant physical demands, there are deeper, more chilling anxieties. You are acutely aware of the sensory horror of rotting bodies. Though not seen explicitly, the very air, the very ground beneath your feet would subtly communicate their pervasive presence. The sounds of your daily life would be punctuated by the heart-wrenching wail of mourners, a haunting, drawn-out lament that would echo through the narrow streets, a constant reminder of loss. This quiet, sorrowful sound would become a pervasive soundtrack to the plague years. And then there is the insidious, ever-present dread of contagion. Every touch, every shared space, every casual breath from another person becomes a potential vector for the invisible enemy. The quiet itch on your skin, the subtle ache in your limbs, each sensation becomes magnified, interpreted through the lens of profound fear. The sounds of your own body, your own breath, might become objects of intense, silent scrutiny. To exist in such a state, to navigate daily life under constant threat and the pervasive shadow of unseen disease, required immense, quiet courage. It demanded unwavering caution, a desperate search for any means of survival, and a deep, almost primal, drive to simply continue to exist amidst overwhelming loss. The rhythm of your life would be a constant, subtle negotiation of profound vulnerability, quiet grief, and the persistent desire to simply awaken to another strange dawn. From the immediate, harrowing experience of a plague survivor in Constantinople, let us now gently broaden our perspective to encompass the figure who presided over this profound crisis. Emperor Justinian I, his reign, from 527 to 565 CE, marked a pivotal era for the Byzantine Empire, a time of immense ambition and profound challenge. This segment invites you to contemplate the quiet struggle of an emperor who sought to restore a vast empire, even as an invisible enemy ravaged his lands. Imagine Justinian I, a figure of immense will and tireless dedication, seated in the grand halls of his palace. The air in these imperial chambers would carry the cool scent of polished marble and the faint aroma of rare spices, a stark contrast to the burdened air of the city's streets. The sounds would be measured, the soft rustle of expensive silks, the quiet murmurs of advisors, and the scratching of quills on parchment as decrees were drafted. Justinian's reign was characterized by an almost boundless ambition. He dreamt of restoring the former glory of the Roman Empire, of reuniting its vast territories under Byzantine rule. His military campaigns stretched across North Africa, Italy, and parts of Spain, recovering lands that had long been lost. Imagine the strategic intensity, the quiet confidence with which he would have directed these vast military undertakings, believing in a destiny of imperial renewal. However, in the mid-6th century, this ambitious vision was profoundly threatened by the arrival of the plague of Justinian. This devastating pandemic swept through his empire, impacting nearly every corner of his realm, including the imperial capital itself. Imagine the emperor, a man accustomed to wielding immense power, now confronted by an enemy that could not be conquered by armies or outmaneuvered by strategy. The sounds of imperial court, usually vibrant with activity, would have been hushed, burdened by the grim news that arrived daily from across the empire. In response to this unprecedented crisis, Justinian and his administration attempted various public health measures. While their understanding of disease transmission was limited, they did implement what they could. Imagine the quiet, desperate efforts, attempts to control the movement of people and goods, perhaps imposing rudimentary quarantines on ships arriving in the Golden Horn. The sounds would be the low, urgent voices of officials discussing logistics, the quiet clatter of carts carrying away the dead, and the solemn tolling of church bells, a constant, mournful backdrop. These were efforts born of necessity, striving to manage the unmanageable. The plague's devastation had a catastrophic impact, leading to a profound economic collapse. Trade, the lifeblood of Constantinople and the empire, slowed dramatically. Agricultural production suffered as farmers succumbed to the disease. The sounds of bustling markets would have quieted, the vibrant chatter of merchants replaced by a pervasive stillness. The flow of tax revenues, vital for funding Justinian's grand projects and military campaigns, dwindled significantly. This economic unraveling was a quiet, insidious threat to the very foundations of his reign. Despite this overwhelming crisis, Justinian pressed forward with his other ambitious reforms. He continued his efforts to codify Roman law, a monumental undertaking that resulted in the Corpus Juris Civilis, a legal framework that would influence jurisprudence for centuries. Imagine the vast scriptoria filled with scribes working in quiet dedication, their quills scratching softly across parchment, preserving and organizing centuries of legal wisdom. He also oversaw a vast building program, most notably the construction of the magnificent Hagia Sophia, a symbol of imperial and spiritual power. The sounds of its construction would have been a quiet, persistent symphony of chiseling stone, hammering wood, and the murmuring of countless laborers, a testament to an emperor's unwavering vision even amidst despair. The reign of Justinian I is a testament to both immense ambition and profound resilience. He faced an existential threat that no emperor had ever encountered, yet he continued to pursue his grand vision for the empire, adapting to the crisis even as it reshaped his world. The soft murmur of imperial decrees, the distant, muffled sounds of a city under siege by disease, and the quiet, persistent rhythm of an emperor's unwavering will. These are the gentle echoes of a truly fascinating chapter in Byzantine history, resonating softly, inviting deep and tranquil contemplation. From the grand, yet often overwhelmed, imperial responses to the plague of Justinian, let us now gently descend to a more personal and deeply human level, the mystery of plague amulets. Found amidst the silent ruins of Constantinople, these small, often humble, objects whisper tales of profound fear and desperate hope, serving as tangible links to the quiet anxieties and spiritual practices of the survivors. They invite us to explore the delicate balance between religious faith and popular superstition in the face of an invisible, relentless enemy. Imagine sifting through the archaeological layers of a long-lost home or a forgotten burial site in ancient Constantinople. Among the broken pottery and scattered tools, your fingers might gently touch a small, unusual object, a plague amulet. These would vary in material and design. Some might be small pieces of carved bone or wood, worn smooth by constant handling. Others could be tiny, flattened metal discs, perhaps copper or lead, intricately etched with symbols or short inscriptions. The feeling of such an artifact, cool and solid in your hand, can quietly connect you to the person who once wore it, seeking protection. The scent of these recovered objects would be faint, the dry, earthy smell of the soil from which they were exhumed, perhaps with a subtle metallic tang. The sounds of their discovery would be hushed, the gentle scrape of an archaeologist's brush, the quiet murmur of observation, the soft rustle of a newly documented find. This leads to the central enigma of these amulets. Were they primarily religious or superstitious? In Byzantine society, the lines between fervent Christian faith and deeply ingrained folk beliefs were often beautifully, sometimes ambiguously blurred. Many amulets bear Christian symbols, a cross, the image of a saint, or a short invocation of divine protection. Imagine a devout Christian, kneeling in quiet prayer, yet also wearing an amulet, feeling a dual layer of comfort and spiritual shield against the terrifying disease. Other amulets, however, seem to draw from older, more traditional practices. They might feature abstract designs, eyes, or cryptic words that suggest a belief in sympathetic magic or the power of specific incantations. Imagine the quiet desperation that might drive someone witnessing widespread death to seek any possible means of defense, blurring the distinction between what was considered strictly pious and what was simply hopeful. The presence of these amulets provides invaluable insights into the cultural practices around Byzantine disease. They confirm the pervasive fear that gripped the populace and illustrate the varied coping mechanisms employed in the face of an existential threat. People prayed, they sought divine intervention, but they also engaged in practical measures, even if those measures were rooted in belief systems that might seem irrational to a modern observer. These were quiet, personal acts of defiance against an overwhelming force. The amulets speak to the deeply personal nature of survival during the plague. While emperors issued decrees and priests offered prayers, the individual sought solace and protection in tangible objects. Imagine the quiet, almost subconscious act of touching an amulet, feeling its smooth surface, drawing a quiet sense of reassurance from its presence against the skin. This small, repetitive action would have been a silent ritual of hope in a world consumed by dread. This segment allows us to reflect on the universal human impulse to seek meaning and protection in the face of incomprehensible suffering. It highlights the complex interplay between faith, fear, and cultural belief. The gentle clink of a small metal amulet, the soft whisper of an ancient prayer, and the enduring questions about the boundaries of belief. These are the calming echoes of a past where hope was clung to, in every quiet way imaginable, inviting deep and tranquil contemplation. From the quiet anxieties and desperate measures of a plague survivor and the humble, hopeful touch of an amulet, let us now gently ascend to a world of contrasting opulence. A Byzantine noble's palace in Constantinople during the same tumultuous era. This segment invites you to step into a realm of refined existence, highlighting the stark difference in daily life between the elite and the struggling populace, even as the shadow of the plague subtly touched all. Imagine crossing the threshold into a noble's marble palace. The air would immediately feel cooler, perhaps carrying the faint, clean scent of polished stone and exotic wood, subtly infused with the delicate aroma of fragrant oils or incense. Your eyes would be met with dazzling displays of artistry, walls adorned with shimmering golden mosaics, depicting religious scenes or intricate geometric patterns, catching the light in 1,000 tiny glints. Heavy, richly woven silk drapes in deep hues of purple, crimson, and gold might hang from archways, softly rustling with any passing breeze, muffling the sounds of the bustling city outside. The very ground beneath your feet would be smooth, cold marble, perhaps inlaid with intricate patterns. The sounds within such a palace would be muted and refined, the soft swish of silk garments as someone moved, the gentle murmur of polite conversation, and the distant, almost imperceptible chime of a small decorative bell. Meals in a noble's palace were far removed from the meager portions of stale bread. Imagine the rich, complex aromas of a Byzantine feast, the savory scent of perfectly cooked fish, perhaps brought fresh from the Bosporus, delicately seasoned with precious spices. Bowls of succulent fruits, roasted meats, and various breads would fill a grand table, and the rich, sweet fragrance of wine, served from elegant pitchers into finely crafted goblets, would permeate the air. The sounds would be soft, the gentle clinking of silverware, the clatter of ceramic plates, and the low, contented hum of conversation, punctuated by quiet laughter. Beyond the sumptuous feasts, the noble's palace was often a hub of intellectual and political activity. Imagine the quiet intensity of religious councils, where learned theologians and high-ranking clerics would gather in a richly appointed chamber. The sounds would be the soft rustle of their robes, the gentle clearing of throats, and the measured, scholarly voices debating complex theological points or imperial doctrines. These discussions, though seemingly abstract, held immense power and could shape the very fabric of Byzantine society. The noble's role in imperial politics was a constant, intricate dance of influence and strategy. These individuals were often high-ranking officials, military commanders, or wealthy landowners whose fortunes and positions were tied directly to the emperor's favor. Imagine them in hushed conversations in secluded courtyards, or at formal meetings, subtly gauging alliances, discussing military campaigns, or advising on matters of state. Their voices, though calm and measured, carried significant weight, impacting the lives of countless citizens. The subtle political maneuvering, the quiet exchange of information, would be the true currency of their daily existence. This segment allows us to reflect on the nature of privilege and power during a time of great crisis. Even within the gilded confines of a noble's palace, the distant echoes of the plague, though perhaps muted, would still resonate. Servants might fall ill, trade disruptions could impact supply lines, and the fear, though less immediate, would subtly linger. Yet, the opulence and strategic pursuits continued, a testament to the resilience and perhaps detachment of the elite. The gentle swish of silk drapes, the soft murmur of learned debate, and the quiet clinking of wine gobel, these are the calming echoes of a refined, powerful world that existed in profound contrast to the widespread hardship, inviting deep and tranquil contemplation as we consider the varied experiences within a single, challenging historical period. From the contrasting worlds of immediate survival and opulent palace life, let us now gently shift our contemplation to the broader, more pervasive consequences of the plague of Justinian. The silent, invisible enemy, once it had swept through the Byzantine Empire, left behind not just individual suffering, but profound, long-term impacts that subtly reshaped the very foundations of society and even influenced the course of early medieval history. This segment invites you to ponder the quiet, slow unraveling of a once vibrant world and the enduring resilience required for its eventual, gradual recovery. Imagine the empire in the aftermath of the plague's initial devastating waves. The sounds that once filled bustling cities and productive farmlands would be subtly, yet profoundly, diminished. A pervasive quiet would settle over vast regions, replacing the familiar sounds of human activity. The most immediate and profound consequence was the massive population decline. Historians quietly estimate that in some areas, a significant portion of the population, perhaps a third or more, simply vanished. The sight of empty homes, uncultivated fields, and deserted streets would have been a silent, haunting testament to this immense loss. This demographic collapse had a cascading impact on labor. Imagine the fields, once teeming with farmers, now lying fallow for lack of hands to tend them. The workshops and construction sites, previously vibrant with the sounds of craftsmanship, would have quieted considerably. This scarcity of labor had far-reaching effects on agriculture, leading to food shortages, and fundamentally weakened the empire's ability to sustain its vast population and ambitious projects. The sounds of fewer people working, a subtle hush over the land, would be a stark indicator of the plague's lingering grip. The plague also touched the very heart of the empire's power, its military strength. An empire at war on multiple fronts required a constant supply of soldiers. The significant loss of manpower meant fewer recruits, smaller armies, and a diminished capacity to defend the vast frontiers. Imagine the quiet concern in military councils, the hushed discussions about dwindling numbers, and the challenging task of maintaining a strong defense with a weakened populace. This subtle, pervasive weakening made the empire more vulnerable to external pressures in the decades and centuries that followed. There were also quiet shifts in urban life. While Constantinople eventually recovered some of its former vibrancy, the memory of the plague's devastation would linger. Patterns of trade might have quietly rerouted. Certain industries might have struggled to regain their footing, and the very demographics of the city would have shifted. The sounds of a slowly recovering city, a gradual return of merchants' calls, the quiet rebuilding of abandoned structures would be the subtle symphony of resilience. In a broader sense, the plague of Justinian might have subtly, yet profoundly, weakened the Byzantine Empire, contributing to challenges it would face in the centuries to come. While not a singular cause for decline, it was a pervasive, underlying factor that drained resources, reduced manpower, and created a lingering vulnerability. The vast ambitions of emperors like Justinian, so grand in scope, were forced to confront the harsh, quiet reality of a world fundamentally altered by disease. Yet, amidst this long-term impact, there was also a profound, quiet resilience required for recovery over centuries. Societies adapted. New generations slowly filled the voids. Agricultural practices quietly shifted. The long, slow process of healing and rebuilding, often unnoticed in the grand sweep of history, was a testament to the human spirit's enduring capacity to endure and overcome. This segment allows us to reflect on the lasting, often understated, ways that natural disasters can shape the course of civilizations. The distant, fading echoes of a diminished population, the subtle shifts in the rhythm of daily life, and the quiet, persistent struggle for recovery. These are the calming whispers of a profound historical turning point, inviting deep and tranquil contemplation as we consider the silent legacy of a devastating plague. From the profound demographic shifts and economic disruptions caused by the plague, let us now gently turn our contemplation to the spiritual realm, the enduring and evolving role of the Byzantine Church, and the shifting beliefs of the people in the face of overwhelming despair. For many in Constantinople and across the empire, the Church provided not only a source of solace, but also a framework for understanding and confronting the inexplicable horror that had descended upon their world. This segment invites you to ponder the quiet comfort found in ritual and the profound impact of suffering on the human. Spirit's search for divine meaning. Imagine stepping into a Byzantine church during the plague years. The air, though, perhaps still carrying the faint, acrid scent of distant pyres, would also be heavy with the comforting aroma of incense, its smoky tendrils curling upwards towards the vaulted ceilings adorned with sacred images. The sounds within would be solemn and pervasive, the low, resonant chanting of hymns echoing softly in the vast space, the quiet murmuring of prayers, and perhaps the soft, rhythmic toll of a distant church bell, a constant, mournful reminder of lives lost. In a world where medical understanding was limited, the church became the primary institution offering explanations, comfort, and crucially, a path to reconciliation with the divine. Priests would have preached sermons on divine judgment or the mysteries of God's will, attempting to provide spiritual context for the unimaginable suffering. Imagine the quiet, attentive faces of congregants, seeking meaning and hope in a seemingly senseless reality. The plague also led to the rise of new devotional practices. People would have turned with even greater fervor to their saints, perceived as powerful intercessors with God. Images of saints or icons would have become even more precious, their painted eyes offering a quiet, constant visual comfort. Imagine touching a cool, polished icon, feeling its smooth surface, finding a quiet sense of spiritual connection and hope for protection. Solemn rituals for the dying and the dead became tragically common. Priests would administer the last rites, offering spiritual solace in the face of inevitable physical decline. The sounds of these quiet ceremonies, the murmured prayers, the hushed blessings, would have been a pervasive backdrop to the profound sorrow of the time. The communal aspect of faith became profoundly important. In a world where families were torn apart by disease and social structures were strained, the church community often provided a vital anchor. Imagine people gathering in quiet desperation, finding strength and solidarity in shared prayer, their collective voices rising softly in appeals for mercy. While faith provided an enduring framework, the sheer scale of the devastation would have prompted profound spiritual introspection and quiet, personal struggles with belief. For many, however, the church remained an unwavering source of guidance and comfort, its ancient rituals and promises of salvation offering a quiet, steadying presence amidst overwhelming chaos. This segment allows us to reflect on the profound human need for spiritual solace and meaning when faced with incomprehensible tragedy. It highlights how faith and religious institutions can serve as vital anchors in turbulent times, offering not just explanation, but also community, ritual, and a quiet sense of hope for an afterlife. The solemn echo of a hymn, the subtle flicker of a candle's flame, and the enduring human search for divine intervention, these are the calming whispers of a deeply spiritual past, inviting deep and tranquil contemplation as we consider the silent power of belief in a world transformed by suffering. We have witnessed the profound contrast that defined this era, its widespread suffering and its moments of individual resilience, its imperial ambition and its humbling vulnerability, its tangible horrors, and its profound search for spiritual meaning. It is a world both bleak and deeply human, a testament to the intricate and often contradictory nature of human existence when faced with overwhelming adversity. What if, as a medieval Japanese peasant, your very existence was tied to land you didn't own, and the constant threat of lords' brutal whims or sudden raids made every day a quiet fear? We gently unfold their stories. Imagine yourself if you Well, not in the comfort of your present moment, but transported back, far back, to the 12th century CE. The setting is the fertile countryside near Kyoto, the grand capital of Japan. And you are, for the purpose of our quiet contemplation, a peasant, bound to the land controlled by a powerful local lord, a daimyo. Your life is defined by the relentless demands of the earth, the cycles of cultivation, and the unwavering obligations. To your lord, the first sensation that might envelop you is the pervasive sensory strain of muddy fields. The air often carries the damp, earthy scent of wet soil and growing rice, mingled with the faint aroma of stagnant water from the paddies. The dominant sounds would be the soft, rhythmic squelch of mud beneath your bare feet as you wade through the flooded fields, planting young rice shoots. The gentle hum of insects around the water and the distant calls of birds would form the constant backdrop to your ceaseless labor. Your body, in particular, knows the unceasing demands of this work. Day after day, often bent low under the sun, or in the cool morning mist, you plant, weed, and harvest. Your back aches from the repetitive motions of planting rice, feeling the constant strain of muscle and bone. Your hands would be rough and calloused, familiar with the feel of cool mud and the sharp edges of rice stalks. This physical exertion is a constant, quiet companion, a reminder of the relentless cycles of agriculture. Meals, while providing necessary energy, are simple and often monotonous. Your staple would be millet, perhaps prepared as a gruel or mixed with other grains, offering a coarse but filling sustenance. Occasionally, you might have fish, caught from nearby rivers or streams, or forage greens. This basic nourishment provides just enough to sustain your body through the long hours of toil, but rarely offers the indulgence of true variety or pleasure. As the day ends, you would return to your humble home. Your shelter would be simple, constructed from wood, bamboo, and thatch, designed for practicality and warmth in winter. Your nights are spent sleeping on a tatami mat, its woven surface firm and unyielding against your body. The sounds of the night would be minimal, the chirping of crickets, the rustle of the wind through nearby trees, or the gentle, distant sounds of fellow villagers settling down for the night. But beneath the physical exertion and the simple routines, there are deeper, persistent anxieties. You keenly feel the weight of tax collectors. The fruits of your labor, the precious rice you cultivate, are not entirely your own. A significant portion, sometimes as much as half or more, must be surrendered to your daimyo as tax. This burden is a constant source of quiet worry, a knowledge that despite your relentless effort, surplus is rare and survival is often precarious. You hear the crisp official tones of the tax collectors as they arrive, the rustle of their papers, the quiet, resigned sighs of your neighbor's dot, and then there's the ever-present, unsettling fear of samurai raids. This era was often marked by localized conflicts between rival daimyo. While your lord provides a degree of protection, the countryside could swiftly become a battleground. The distant, ominous sound of horse hooves, the shouts of warriors, the sudden flicker of firelight on the horizon, these would be the terrifying harbingers of a raid. The fear is a cold knot in the stomach, the quiet understanding that your home, your meager possessions, and even your family could be swept away in a sudden burst of violence. To exist in such a state, to endure relentless labor under the shadow of heavy obligations and potential conflict, required a profound internal fortitude. It demanded a silent resilience, a focus on the immediate task of survival, and a deep, almost instinctual drive to simply carry on. The rhythm of their lives was a constant struggle against the elements, against exhaustion, and against the omnipresent, subtle threat of the Lord's demands and the warrior's blade. From the humble, arduous existence of the medieval Japanese peasant, bound to the rhythms of the land and the local lord, Let us now gently shift our gaze to the grander stage of feudal power. We turn our attention to the figure of Minamoto no Yoritomo, a man whose strategic vision and military prowess would fundamentally reshape the political landscape of Japan, laying the foundations for centuries of warrior rule. This narrative of ambition and the establishment of a new order is delivered with a soothing, reflective tone, allowing you to contemplate the quiet currents of history. The period is the late 12th century, a time marked by increasing tension, an eventual widespread conflict between two powerful rival clans, the Minamoto and the Taira. For decades, the imperial court in Kyoto, which we will visit later, had been the center of power, but actual authority had slowly fragmented, often wielded by powerful court nobles or monastic institutions. This fragile balance was about to be profoundly disrupted. Minamoto no Yoritomo, born in 1147 CE, was a scion of the influential Minamoto clan. His early life was marked by adversity. His family suffered a devastating defeat at the hands of the Taira and the Heiji rebellion, and Yoritomo himself was exiled at a young age to the remote Izu Peninsula. Imagine the quiet years of exile, a time of enforced contemplation, perhaps nurturing a quiet, persistent ambition for restoration and revenge. This period, far from the bustling capital, likely shaped his disciplined resolve and strategic thinking. It was in 1180 CE that Yoritomo, then in his early 30s, received a summons from Prince Mokihito, a son of Emperor Go-Shirakawa, to rise against the dominant Taira clan. This was the spark that ignited what became known as the Genpei War, a widespread conflict that would engulf Japan for 5 years. These were not battles of grand armies on open fields in the European style, but often a series of smaller skirmishes, sieges, and naval engagements, stretching across vast distances, with local lords and their samurai joining one side or the other. Yo or Itomo, though initially a minor figure, displayed a remarkable talent for organization and leadership. He established his base in Kamakura, a strategically advantageous location far from the old imperial capital, and began to consolidate his power. He attracted loyal samurai, not just through charisma, but through clear promises of reward in the form of land and official positions once victory was achieved. His approach was measured, disciplined, and systematic, patiently building a formidable force, the wars themselves, while often involving swift and decisive actions, were also prolonged and exhausting. For the ordinary peasants, these conflicts meant profound disruption. While we avoid graphic descriptions of warfare, imagine the constant anxiety of living in a land where rival armies might pass through, demanding supplies, commandeering resources, or engaging in local skirmishes that could devastate a village. The quiet hum of daily life could be shattered by the distant sounds of marching feet or the sudden, stark presence of armed samurai, their armor glinting in the sun. The need for food to feed these armies often meant additional demands on peasants, intensifying the burden of their labor and their taxes. Through a series of critical victories, culminating in the decisive naval battle of Dan-no-Ura in 1185 CE, the Minamoto clan ultimately vanquished the Taira. This victory marked a pivotal moment in Japanese history. However, Yoritomo did not immediately move to Kyoto to claim imperial power. Instead, he maintained his base in Kamakura, reinforcing his distinct form of authority. Separate from the emperor's court. In 1192 CE, Minamoto no Yoritomo officially received the title of Seiyai Taishogun, or barbarian subduing generalissimo, from the emperor. This was the formal establishment of the Kamakura shogunate, the first enduring military government in Japanese history. It marked a profound shift in power, moving effective political control from the imperial court and aristocratic families in Kyoto to the warrior class centered in Kamakura. The establishment of samurai rule meant that Japan would now be governed by a warrior class, emphasizing discipline, loyalty, and martial prowess. Yoritomo set up a system of military governors, shugo, and land stewards, jutsu, across the provinces, effectively overseeing all aspects of local administration, including taxation and justice. This new structure brought a degree of stability after the long war, but it also solidified the obligations and demands placed upon the peasantry. Their lives, already arduous, were now firmly under the control of a powerful military elite, their labor fueling not just local lords, but a broader, centralized warrior government. The disciplined and strategic rise of Minamoto no Yoritomo, his patient consolidation of power, and the eventual founding of the Kamakura shogunate represent a quiet, yet monumental, shift in the course of Japanese history. It laid the groundwork for a society where the sword, rather than the courtly brush, held ultimate sway, shaping the lives of everyone, from the highest noble to the humblest peasant, for centuries to come. From the broad strokes of Minamoto no Yoritomo's military rise and the new order of samurai rule, let us now gently narrow our focus to a more intimate and tangible aspect of medieval Japanese life: the fascinating enigma of Heian tax scrolls. These humble yet profoundly informative fragments of written record, often found preserved within the quiet confines of ancient Kyoto temples, offer a rare, direct glimpse into the economic realities, the administrative intricacies, and the daily burdens of the Japanese peasantry. They invite us to ponder the quiet suffering and the meticulous record-keeping of a bygone era. Imagine the atmosphere in a quiet, cool storage room within an ancient Buddhist temple in Kyoto. The air might carry the faint, dry scent of aged paper, and perhaps a subtle aroma of wood from ancient shelving. The sounds would be hushed: the gentle rustle of a scholar's robes, the soft clicking of a writing brush, and the almost imperceptible dry rustle of old scrolls as they are carefully unrolled. This quiet environment is where these ancient documents, the remnants of centuries of meticulous administration, have rested for generations. The core of Japan's feudal economy revolved around agriculture, primarily rice cultivation. The land was the source of all wealth and power, and taxes levied predominantly in rice were the lifeblood of the ruling class, the imperial court, the aristocracy, and later the samurai. These tax scrolls were the meticulous records of these obligations. They were carefully compiled by local administrators, documenting the land holdings of peasant families, the estimated yields, and the precise amounts of rice or other produce they owed to their lord. A mystery, or perhaps the quiet fascination, of these scrolls lies not just in their practical function, but in the questions they raise about their enforcement and potential manipulation. While many records highlight the systematic nature of feudal taxation, these documents sometimes offer subtle clues of negotiation, resistance, or even corruption. This raises a quiet, persistent question: were these tax demands always strictly enforced with unwavering severity, or were there instances where they might have been manipulated by local officials or even subtly resisted by the peasants themselves? Consider the scribes, often temple monks or educated village officials, who carefully inscribed these records. Their precise brushstrokes documented entries such as X amount of koku of rice owed by family Y from village Z. These dry, factual statements, when read closely, hint at the immense burden on peasant families. The weight of these taxes was truly crushing, forcing peasants to labor relentlessly simply to meet their obligations, leaving little surplus for themselves. The scrolls rarely describe the human cost directly, but the sheer volume of their demands is implicitly understood. These records provide invaluable insights into cultural practices around Japanese feudalism and the complex relationship between the ruling class, and the peasantry. They demonstrate the meticulous bureaucracy of the feudal system, even at the local level. They reveal the profound economic power of the daimyo and the shogunate, whose entire existence rested upon the agricultural output of the common people. The scrolls also indirectly shed light on the constant pressure peasants faced, and how even subtle shifts in harvest yields or administrative demands could drastically impact their survival. The fact that these archaeological finds, these humble text scrolls, have been preserved for centuries in the dry, stable environments of temples allows us to directly engage with the fundamental economic realities of medieval rural life. They are not merely ancient texts. They are tangible pieces of a grand puzzle, inviting calm contemplation. They prompt, used to consider how power was exercised through taxation, how the system shaped individual lives, and how much even the seemingly simple act of collecting taxes was fraught with quiet tension. The subtle rustling sound of these ancient fragments, when held in the mind's eye, whispers tales of a society where even the most mundane administrative records reveal the underlying presence of hardship and the relentless demands placed upon the land. From the stark realities etched in the Heian tax scrolls and the arduous life of the medieval peasant, let us now gently transition to a realm of exquisite refinement, aesthetic beauty, and intricate social maneuvering. The sprawling, elegant world of a Heian noble's court. This offers a profound contrast to the peasant's ceaseless toil, providing a captivating glimpse into the serene grandeur, refined pleasures, and the subtle complexities of imperial politics that define Japan's elite culture during this remarkable period. Imagine stepping through a delicate sliding door into a noble's residence within the capital city of Heian-kyo, modern Kyoto. The air here would feel cool and calm, often carrying the delicate, sweet scent of burning incense, or perhaps, in spring, the light, fresh aroma of cherry blossoms from meticulously curated gardens. The sounds would be hushed and measured, the soft rustle of silk garments as figures move gracefully, the gentle murmur of polite conversation, and the distant, soothing notes of a musical instrument like the koto or a bamboo flute. The architecture of a Heian noble's residence was designed for beauty and harmony with nature, characterized by open pavilions, connecting corridors, and tranquil gardens. Interior spaces were defined by elegant simplicity and fine materials. Walls were often made of delicate silk screens, bamboo and fusamu, adorned with exquisite paintings or calligraphy, allowing light to diffuse softly and spaces to be reconfigured. Furnishings would be minimal yet luxurious, including lacquered wooden tables, comfortable cushions, and perhaps low folding screens. The light, often diffused and soft, would gently illuminate chambers. Designed for both daily life and sophisticated social gatherings, the daily rhythm of a Heian noble was one of refined leisure, aesthetic pursuit, and subtle political maneuvering. Unlike the physical labor of the peasant, the noble's duties were primarily intellectual, artistic, and ceremonial. Their days were filled with gentle oversight of their estates, elaborate social calls, the composition of poetry, and the meticulous attention to personal appearance and etiquette. Feasts in a noble's court were not merely meals. They were carefully orchestrated social and artistic events, reflecting the noble's taste, wealth, and connections. Imagine guests as seated on floor cushions, enjoying the meticulously presented array of dishes. The aroma of perfectly cooked rice, often accompanied by delicate fish, seasoned vegetables, and small portions of duck or fowl, would subtly fill the air. The most distinctive element would be sak, a rice wine, served in delicate lacquered cups, its gentle warmth adding to the atmosphere of convivial relaxation. The sounds of such a feast would be a harmonious blend of hushed, refined conversation and the soft melodies of traditional music. A central feature of court life was the poetry contest. Imagine nobles, both men and women, engaging in elegant exchanges, composing waka poems on the spot, their voices soft and measured, each syllable carefully chosen. The sounds of their recitations, the gentle laughter, and the appreciative murmurs of fellow courtiers would fill the air, punctuating the subtle plucking of a kodo or the reedy notes of a flute. These contests were not just entertainment. They were a vital display of wit, education, and sensitivity, crucial for social standing and political influence. The nobles' role in imperial politics was paramount, though often conducted through indirect means. While the emperor was the symbolic head of the nation, real power during much of the Heian period rested with powerful aristocratic families, particularly the Fujiwara clan, who often controlled appointments and advised the throne. Nobles would spend their days crafting elegant letters, engaging in subtle diplomacy, arranging strategic marriages, and cultivating alliances through gifts and favors. Their influence was wielded through carefully chosen words, exquisite calligraphy, and a profound understanding of courtly protocol. This segment allows us to reflect on the immense comfort, the ceremonial splendor, and the deep aesthetic and intellectual engagement that define the lives of the Heian elite. It stands in stark, yet serene, contrast to the arduous, tax-burdened existence of the peasant. One group lived a life cushioned by luxury, artistry, and political intrigue, connected to the very heart of imperial power. The other toiled under the sun, a vital but physically demanding part of the same vast system. Both existed within the grand structure of medieval Japanese society, but their experiences were profoundly different, highlighting the profound disparities and the intricate layers of this fascinating historical period. From the refined and often secular world of the Heian nobles' court, let us now gently descend to the spiritual heart of the medieval Japanese peasant. Here, amidst the relentless toil and constant anxieties, a quiet yet profound faith provided solace, meaning, and a framework for understanding a difficult world. We explore the deep intertwining of Buddhism and ancient folk beliefs in their daily lives, inviting you to contemplate the quiet, enduring power of their spirituality. Imagine the landscape of medieval Japan, not just as fields and villages, but as a space permeated by sacred presence. Humble Buddhist temples and numerous local shrines dedicated to Shinto deities were ubiquitous, often nestled among the trees on hillsides or standing quietly by a river. The air, even in remote areas, might carry the faint scent of burning incense from a small altar or the subtle aroma of offerings left for the spirits. The sounds would be gentle and rhythmic, the distant, steady striking of a wooden mokiyo during a monk's morning prayers, or the almost imperceptible rustle of prayer flags moved by a gentle breeze. For the medieval Japanese peasant, life was an unending cycle of labor, natural uncertainties, and the demands of their lords. Amidst this, Buddhism offered a profound philosophical framework and a path to solace. While sophisticated Buddhist doctrine might have been the domain of learned monks and court elites, for the common people, it often manifested as a simpler, more accessible practice focused on Amabeha Buddha and the promise of rebirth in the Pure Land, chanting the Nimbutsu, Namu Amida Butsu, Hail to Amitabha Buddha, was a common and comforting practice. A quiet repetition that could be done anywhere, anytime, offering a path to spiritual ease, even in moments of great hardship. Think of the simplicity of their rituals. A peasant, perhaps after a long day in the fields, might quietly approach a small local temple or a wayside shrine. They might offer a handful of rice, light a stick of incense, or simply bring their hands together in silent prayer. These were not elaborate ceremonies, but quiet, deeply personal acts of devotion, a way to connect with the divine, to express gratitude, or to seek protection and good fortune for their crops and families. The very act of visiting these sacred spots provided a brief respite from the physical demands of their lives, a quiet moment of internal peace. Alongside the teachings of Buddhism, ancient folk beliefs continued to hold immense power. These were deeply rooted in the land and the reverence for nature spirits, kami, and in the practice of ancestral worship. Every village likely had its own guardian kami enshrined at a local Shinto shrine, often marked by a simple torii gate. Peasants would offer prayers for good harvests, for protection from illness, and for the well-being of their families. They believed the spirits of their ancestors watched over them, and rituals for the deceased were meticulously, if simply, performed, ensuring harmony between the living and the dead. The quiet reverence for these unseen forces permeated every aspect of their daily lives. The presence of monks in rural areas also played a significant role. Wandering monks might visit villages, offering blessings, reciting sutras, or simply providing spiritual guidance. Their quiet presence, their calm demeanor, and the rhythmic sounds of their chanting or the tapping of their makujo would have been a source of quiet reassurance for the villagers. A visible manifestation of the spiritual world in their midst stopped this. Intertwining of Buddhist principles of suffering and liberation with ancient, earthy folk beliefs created a unique spiritual tapestry for the medieval Japanese peasant. It offered a quiet solace amidst the crushing weight of their existence, a framework for understanding life's impermanence, and a hope for a better future, whether in this life or the next. The pervasive scent of incense, the meticulous movements of simple devotion, and the ancient, echoing chants. These are the gentle whispers of a profound faith that provided a quiet, enduring strength to the people of medieval Japan. From the quiet spiritual depths of medieval Japanese peasant life, let us now gently turn our attention to the tangible realities of their daily existence within the village itself. We will explore the rhythm of the village, focusing on the humble tools they used, the simple crafts they practiced, and the quiet strength derived from their communal bonds. This segment invites you to contemplate the ingenuity, resilience, and cooperative spirit that sustained them amidst hardship. Imagine a typical peasant village nestled among the fields, its cluster of simple thatched roof homes blending harmoniously with the landscape. The air might carry the earthy scent of drying rice straw, mingled with the faint, woody aroma of smoke from cooking fires. The sounds would be gentle and consistent, the distant rhythmic thud of a wooden mallet used for husking grain, the soft swish of a hand loom as thread is woven into cloth, or the quiet, purposeful scraping of a simple hoe against the earth in a nearby garden. These sounds would form a continuous, calming backdrop to the village's daily life. The peasant's world was defined by simple yet essential tools. Imagine the smooth, worn wood of a hoe handle against your palm, or the cool, familiar weight of a sickle as you harvest rice. These tools, often crafted from wood, bamboo, or simple iron, were extensions of their bodies, carefully maintained and passed down through generations. The sounds of their use, the careful sharpening of a blade on a stone, the rhythmic chop of an axe splitting firewood, the gentle creak of a handcart on a dirt path, would speak of a deep connection to the land and its resources beyond. Agriculture, many peasants engaged in simple crafts to supplement their livelihoods or create necessary household items. You might hear the quiet, focused sounds of weaving as fibers from hemp or ramie were transformed into sturdy cloth for clothing or mats. The gentle creak of the loom, the rhythmic shuttle passing threads, would create a soothing, almost meditative sound. Perhaps someone would be mending simple pottery or carefully shaping small wooden utensils, their hands moving with practice ease, creating objects for daily use with a quiet sense of purpose, a defining characteristic of medieval Japanese. Peasant life was the strength of community. The demands of rice cultivation particularly required communal effort. Imagine groups of villagers working together in the paddy fields, moving in unison, their movements synchronized as they planted or harvested. The quiet shared exertion, the subtle communication through glances and gestures would forge strong bonds. During times of shared labor, you might hear the soft, rhythmic sounds of simple work songs, hummed or sung quietly to help pass the long hours and coordinate their efforts. Evenings in the village would bring a comforting quiet. After the day's labor, families would gather in their simple homes. The gentle sizzle of a meal cooking over an open hearth, the soft murmur of conversations, and the quiet laughter of children would fill the spaces. The profound darkness of the nights, broken only by the flickering light of a simple oil lamp or the glow of the moon, would encourage rest and reflection. The distant calls of nocturnal animals or the gentle rustle of the wind through the surrounding trees would be the only disturbances to the pervasive stillness. This segment allows us to reflect on the quiet, often uncelebrated, ingenuity and resilience of the medieval Japanese peasant. Their lives, though marked by hardship, were also rich with the dignity of labor, the satisfaction of creating with their own hands, and the enduring warmth of communal bonds. These subtle sounds of village life, the rhythms of their daily existence, offer a calming echo from a distant past, reminding us of the quiet strength that can be found in simple things and shared purpose. Asterisk. So we have witnessed the profound contrasts that define this fascinating civilization, its moments of immense hardship and its heights of aristocratic elegance, its fierce military power and its pervasive spiritual devotion, its meticulous administration and its quiet, enduring village life. It is a world both disciplined and deeply traditional, a testament to the intricate and often contradictory nature of human societies across millennia dot as the echoes of these ancient, yet deeply human, tales gently recede into the quiet of the past. Allow your mind to drift back to the comfort and stillness of your own space, your own time. The distant thud of the rice mallet has quieted. The rustle of ancient scrolls has faded. The journey through this compelling age is complete. May your rest be deep and your dreams peaceful. Good night.